Eliyana. Did I say that right?
Yes.
Welcome in, Eliyana. Are you at least 18 and are you a believer?
Yes.
Awesome. And what God or higher power do you believe in?
I follow Jesus.
Cool. What'd be the most convincing evidence or argument for Jesus slash the Trinity slash the Christian God slash Yahweh being real?
I think that's kind of the problem is you want to narrow it down to one different thing and it's multiple things. So let me ask you, what type of proof would you need?
Any proof that can be tested, measured, witnessed with eyeballs, or even a good argument.
Okay. So if God is outside of time and space and created all of this, how exactly would you expect to measure that physically
Well, that's exactly
if
what I
he's
would.
not physical?
That's exactly what I would say my God is, as long as I wanted to believe in something that was completely unfalsifiable.
Okay, but one way or the other, would you admit there's either a God or there's not a God?
I think there's either a billion gods or there's no gods.
Why do you think there's either a billion or none?
I think it's
Why would you say
silly.
there couldn't just be one?
I think it's silly to believe in one God.
Why?
Because multiple gods at least explains the carnage that people are experiencing on the planet.
Okay. And am I correct? Does somebody I thought said in the comments yesterday that you used to be a pastor?
Yep,
Is that correct? How long were you a pastor?
about a decade.
Wow, nice. What can I sorry if this is too personal, can I ask why you decided against it?
Because the Bible wasn't true.
What I'm saying, like, what made you determine that?
Jesus fulfilled zero prophecies. The Old Testament is horrific. The earth is older than 6,000 years. There's no dome called the firmament over the earth. The earth is not flat, even though the Bible seems to think that it's flat. It's also just not true. Like when it gives the genealogies of the various nations, those aren't actually where the people came from. They didn't come from the Middle East. Most of them actually came from Africa. I mean, I can go on and on. It says that there were rivers that were fed by rainwater, except rain didn't exist at the time. So they certainly couldn't have existed.
Okay, well, let's pick that apart.
Yeah,
That was a lot.
yeah,
One, let's say
pick
the
your favorite
firmament.
one. Mhm.
Okay, so the I don't know if I can run this down quickly for you. The way I believe is that the earth was formed a certain way, not the way we see it today. That when it was first formed, there was no rain. Rain did not happen until the flood came.
Right,
So the firmament
which
might
means
not have
which
been what you think. Like I don't know what you determine a firmament to be. To me, that's the atmosphere.
it's not. So the Hebrew word rakia is referring to a hard structure, which is why a lot of new translations, like the NRSV, is just calling it a dome because that's what it was. In fact, the ancient Jewish rabbis went through lengthy debates trying to figure out what the dome was made out of, how thick it was, how far away from Earth it was, and even books like Enoch. Quite literally described how there were doors in the shell of the firmament that allowed the sun to pass through and then go underneath the flat earth. Like everyone believed the earth was flat and that there was a dome over top of it, including the Bible.
Yeah, I don't know about that. We'll
No, it's
we'll
true.
we'll agree to disagree on that one because I don't know enough about that conversation to go deep in that rabbit hole.
Hmm.
What was the other thing? Yeah, I don't know where you're getting the Earth was flat. I mean, again, if I don't know much about that rabbit hole. I can look into it. That could possibly just be Jews did a lot of that thought experiment type stuff, and that doesn't necessarily make it true, and that's why it was not in the Bible. That's why they have
Well,
that separately written.
the Bible says it is. Bible
I
says that
believe it's called the Midrash, if I'm not mistaken.
the Bible says that the earth is formed like clay beneath a seal. Have you ever seen clay beneath a seal?
Clay beneath the seal.
Hmm.
I don't know what you mean.
It's a
Are you
flat
talking
disc.
like a seal?
It's a flat disc, yeah. So the way that they did seals, clay seals, is you would have a ring typically, or a roller, either one. But this is probably referring to the ring. And a king would have a signet on the ring that had his icon, and then you would smush the clay, and you'd have an impression. And almost all of
Again, though,
the
you would
ancient
have
clay
to
seals
tell
that we've
me
discovered are in fact flat and round. Job
you
thirty-eight
would have to
fourteen.
tell me where that is written in the Bible because again, context always matters, the type of writing matters. Again, with the
Yeah.
Bible, I again as a pastor, I would think you know that certain things are written as history, certain things are written as poetry, certain things are written as literature.
Yep.
so
Job
I
thirty-eight
you would
fourteen.
have to tell me like where exactly that is.
Job 38:14.
Job 38:13.
Job also says that the firmament is hard like a cast metal mirror.
Do we know if we're talking about the firmament around the earth still, or is it possible that that could have been interpreted as a firmament around the universe?
There's no
As
firmament
in
around the
possibly
universe.
some type of barrier between us and God.
Neither. The firmament is a dome, and God's home is on the top of the firmament, according to Psalm 50, verse 1.
But again, psalm is poetry.
So,
So that's metaphor.
no,
To say
saying
that
something
God's
poetic,
throne
wrong
sits above
again.
us, God's
Nah, it's
throne
not how
is
that
over
works.
top of
Not
us.
how that
I
works.
mean, it is.
Just being
That is how
poetry,
poetry
no, that's
works.
literally not how that works. Just being poetry doesn't mean everything in the poetry is metaphor. If I wrote
But
a
what makes you
poem,
determine
if I
what you
wrote a
believe in
if
the
I wrote a
poetry is
poem that's
metaphor versus
if
what's
I
not?
wrote a poem that said I read a book, would that be a metaphor
Mhm.
or would it just be a claim within my poem?
That's why I just asked you what would make
It's
you
well, try
determine,
try
okay, this
again.
is
Eliana, try
fact.
again. Pay attention to my question.
I
If
just
I
did,
write
and I
if I
answered it.
you didn't, try
I'm
again.
trying to answer it right now. I
You're
said,
not
what
answering
makes you
it right
determine if
now.
something is written in poetry
Eliana,
that this is
I don't want to mute you. So don't make me mute you. I asked a simple question. I just want you to listen to my question and give me an answer. If I write a poem and in my poem I say that I read a book, is that a
I don't know if you
metaphor?
read that book. I don't know because I don't know
I
if you read the
didn't tell
book.
you which book. I said a book. If I
I don't
make
know
a
if you read a book.
if I make a claim in my
I don't know.
poem that I read a book, is it logical to conclude that my poem is about me reading a book or that I'm making a metaphor for something?
It could be a metaphor because it's a poem. You could be
Okay.
referring to something else. You
Are
could be
you
referring to a lady,
are
"Oh, I
you
read this
aware that not
beautiful
all
book.
poems are
The pages were
metaphors?
silky smooth." You could be talking about a woman.
Are you aware that not all poems are metaphorical?
Sure. But
Okay.
how do you know you didn't write the poem? So that's why I'm asking, what makes you decide he was being serious when he said this, but this was metaphor? What
Because if
makes
it's
you
a
decide the
metaphor,
difference?
you have to know what the metaphor is for, or else the metaphor is useless. So when he says that the
That's
earth
my
is
point.
formed,
At the
like
time when these were
Eliana,
written,
why are
the
you talking over
cultural
me? Eliana, I'm gonna turn your volume down so every time you talk over me, no one can hear you. You want that? Okay. Now in Job 38:14, there is a statement that is mentioned. The statement is that the earth is formed like clay under a seal. It even says that it has edges, it has skirts. Now, if that's a metaphor, then it's on you to figure out what the hell the metaphor is. So what is it?
right. Again, I would have to look into the cultural references because at that time, the culture was different than what it is to us now. Wheat, water, different things meant different things to these people. So when they said this is this, to them, it had a different meaning than what we read it in English and say, oh, they're just being literal. No, they're not.
So
There's
you don't know
probably
what
a
it's talking
deeper
about?
meaning to it. I'm sorry.
So you don't actually know what it's talking about then.
Which one, Psalm or Job? I
We're talking
told you
about
what I believe
we're
Psalm means.
we're talking
Job, I
about
would have to
Job
look into it to find out if
38:14. So if you don't know what Job 38:14 is actually saying, then you can't say that I'm wrong. Just saying, well, it's a metaphor is useless. You don't even know if it's a metaphor.
okay, give me 2 seconds and I'll read it.
I love Christian's favorite defense. It's a metaphor. The words don't mean words.
That's not true. You know, there are writings that
It
are
is true.
not meant to be what, just like there one in a Song of Solomon that's about a woman, but it's about Israel.
No, I don't think the Song of Solomon's about Israel.
There is one in there that is.
I don't
It's
believe
either a
so.
psalm or it's in the Song of Solomon. It's one of the two,
I
and it's
don't.
written and it's very erotic
That's
and
the
it's
Song of
written about
Solomon.
Israel.
I disagree.
That's my point. So people are having different interpretations of what this means and what it doesn't, and that's why there's biblical study into the culture and the time
Yeah,
period to find out why
yeah,
that was written the way it was and
yeah. I
what it
did all
actually
that.
meant.
Yep, I did all that. Yep.
Okay,
Good.
so
Gonna read
this
the
is in
passage.
Job 31.
Job
Can you
38.
bind the change of the Pleiades? Can you loosen Orion's belt?
We're in
You
Job
think that's
38, by the way.
literal?
We're in Job 38, just so you're
Yeah,
aware.
I'm getting down to it. Again, I'm going with context because you can't pull one verse out of an entire chapter and then go, oh,
You're not
gotcha.
even in the right
No, you need to
chapter.
look at the context, the entire context
I've
of
read
Job
the
38.
entire context of the Bible. I've read every last word of the Bible, most of it in the
I'm
original
literally reading it
languages.
right to
So
you. Do you
I'm
believe,
in
can
Job
you loosen
38.
Orion's belt is literal?
You're in Job 31. I'm in Job 38.
This is Job 38,
I'm not your honey.
verse 31. Job 38,
Okay,
verse
30.
31.
Okay, 38, 31. Yes.
Yeah,
And
I'm
and
making
it's
my way
talking
down
about
to 38 to get the
and it's talking
context.
about constellations, is it not?
Correct.
Okay. Do you
And
know the constellations of Pleiades and Orion?
it says, can you loosen Orion's belt? Do
Yeah,
you believe that that is meant literally?
yeah, that's actually the point. The point here is that Job is not capable of doing what God is capable of doing. Job cannot actually do anything with the stars or the constellations. That's God's job. God is the one who designed everything, not Job.
Right.
This entire chapter is about asking Job, inquiring of Job about his capabilities, and it turns out he doesn't have any capabilities because he's not
What I'm
God.
saying though is you're trying to say this is meant to be literal. It's saying the earth takes shape like clay
Yeah,
under a seal.
yeah,
It features
like clay.
stand out like
Mhm.
those of a garment.
So what's it
That's
mean?
not a literal mean.
What's it
He's
mean?
basically describing that like I created this world. I made everything. I made it like a seal. It's so perfect. I made it like this. Its features stand out
No,
like
seals aren't
those of
perfect.
fine garments.
Seals have nothing
He's
to do with
giving
perfection.
glory to the creation that he made.
Yeah, we all know that. That has nothing to do with the
Okay,
words. The words
right?
in the sentence is that the earth is formed like clay beneath a seal. What is
That's what I'm saying. You're taking that literal.
when something looks like clay beneath a seal, what would it look like?
I don't think that's what it's saying. I think
It
it's like
says it. We
no,
read
honey,
it twice.
you can use they even have the cylinder seals. You just roll it out.
I
So it's
know.
saying
Yeah.
after you roll it
That's
out,
flat
this is
too.
what it's going to
That's
look
flat
like
too. I've got them right here.
because I designed it that way. So I made that image, I stamped that image.
Yeah. I've got a whole collection of cylinder seals. And you know what happens when you roll them out?
They create an image.
They create flat images.
What does flat have anything to do with the fact that he's just talking about it creates an image?
He's not saying
But
an
either
image. He
way,
said
when a person is
it's like the
standing on the
clay.
earth, do
Can
you
I
see that
hey,
it's round?
do I get to talk on my own live stream or no? Let me
You
know.
talk the whole time on your live stream,
I'm asking you to talk right now. I'm responding to the thing you said, okay?
right?
When clay is pressed beneath a seal, what shape is it?
It depends on what you're putting it on.
When clay is pressed beneath a cylinder seal or a ring seal, what shape is it?
It depends on what you're putting it on. If you
I'll
roll it
just give
around
you
a
the answer.
sphere,
It's
if you
flat.
roll it
The
around a
shape is
sphere,
flat.
what shape is it going to be?
There's no sphere. So when you press your signet into a piece of clay, it becomes flat. When you roll it out with a roller, it becomes flat. It's saying that the earth is flat with topology.
No, it's saying, okay, it's saying if you have a piece of clay and you stamp something down on it, you're
It's flat.
imprinting and hold on, you're imprinting an image. I'm not
Mhm.
talking about the flat piece of clay. Just like I said, if you have a round piece of clay and you run a cylinder seal all the way around it,
It
that
becomes
clay is
flat.
still going to be round, but now it has an image
You'd be
on
wrong.
the surface.
It'd be
You
flat.
can say I'm wrong all you want because you're going to argue every point I make.
There's not a
That's how you
single
do this. So it doesn't
example
matter
of
what
the
I
ancient
say.
world. I know because you're just
So
making
we can
stuff
move
up.
on from that because I have
So
many other points. You're a
so
parent,
you
correct?
don't have any points. So
No, I
there's not a
actually have a
single
lot.
instance from the ancient world, not one. There's not a single archaeological instance I've ever seen, and you'll never find one either, of a sphere that has been stamped by a clay seal.
I'm not saying that. What I'm
They're
saying
all
is I think
flat,
your interpretation is incorrect. I don't think they're
and
talking
you'd be
about the flat
wrong.
piece of clay that it is being stamped upon. I think he's talking about the stamped making an impression,
Yeah, flat,
the image that shows up.
flat with edges.
Okay, if that's what you want to say, sure.
No, the
That's not what
Bible
I
says it.
believe. So
The
we can, again, we can
the
agree to
Bible says
disagree on
it.
that point because that's not how I interpret it.
The Bible says it has skirts, it has edges.
Where's that at?
The same verse we're just reading, one verse prior.
Mhm. So 13.
Yep.
Have you ever given orders to the morning or shown the dawn its place, that it might take the earth by the edges and shake the wicked out of it? That's not what it's saying.
It says edge, skirt of the earth. Do spheres have edges and skirts?
It doesn't say skirts in my translation. It says edges.
Same thing. A skirt is an edge.
Would you consider the Grand Canyon having an edge?
No.
You don't think the Grand Canyon has an edge? So if God is
It has
huge
a
and he
ledge.
goes to grasp up the earth, he can't stick his hand in crevices and say that's an edge?
No, a crevice is not an
Okay.
edge. The edge of the
Well,
earth is what you would
again,
expect for a flat disc.
again, I don't think that this is all meant to be literal. I think it's
Right.
meant.
Yeah, words never mean words, I
Uh,
know.
uh, you have to. Okay, again, if you're a scholar and you've studied the Bible, do
I
you
am.
deny that different books are written in different types of literature?
Yeah, and I deny that when you don't like something that's in the Bible that you just call it metaphor even though you don't know what it's
It's
a
not that I don't
metaphor
like it. I
for.
just don't
So
agree
the
with your
reality is
interpretation
you
because
don't like what it
that's not
says,
the.
so you have to go through and say, well, the words don't mean what words mean. I'm not willing to lie. You
No, I
are.
can literally read this as a human being with a brain and go, that's not meant to be literal.
Only if you're a
God is
liar.
giving a description of majesty here. It's not meant to be a literal interpretation. That's I can read it and see that myself. I don't need somebody to
So
tell
what's it
me that.
mean?
And I'm not
What's
going to
the edge of
base
the
my
earth?
entire belief off one verse in the
So
Bible.
what is the edge of the earth then?
I just told you what it could be. It could be the
You
edge of a
think the edge of
mountain. It
the
could
earth
be
is
the Grand Canyon.
the
It
edge
could
of a
be.
mountain? So God took the edge of a mountain.
How would you pick up a ball?
So what you're
How
discovering
would you
here
pick up a ball, a
is that
basketball? When you pick up a
well,
ball,
you wouldn't grab
how
it
do you
by
pick
the
it up?
edge.
I'm sorry.
You wouldn't grab it by the edge.
What would you grab? What would
There's
you call it
there's
if
no
they
there's no edge on a
reinterpreted
basketball.
that and changed the word that would make you happy? What would you call it on the side? If he said side, would that have made a
Yeah.
difference?
Yeah, we can use the word side. That's an easy one.
So how do you know that's not possibly one of the interpretations?
Because there's a Hebrew word for side and it wasn't used here. The word that was used here means edge or skirt, which is why all of our English translations say edge or skirt. And the image being painted by the author is of a garment being shaken out by the edge. It's flat.
So you just answered your question. He's comparing it to the garment. So
Yes,
that's the
exactly.
edge.
He's describing the
So
earth
it's not
like
literal.
a
The earth is
well,
clearly not a
so
garment.
we'll try this again. No one's saying the earth is a garment. Pay attention. He's describing the earth, saying it is like a garment. It is like clay beneath a seal. If I said that my basketball
Just
is, hey,
you
listen,
just proved my point.
no, I didn't pay attention. This is how simile works. I don't know if you learned about simile when you were a kid, but that's how simile works. If I said that my basketball is like a pancake, what shape is that?
If you say that again,
If I said my basketball is like a pancake, what shape is my basketball?
a circle,
Which is what? Is it
a
flat?
circle.
Is it flat?
Depends because again, depending on
Do you
if you're
not
looking
know that
directly at a
pancakes are
ball
flat?
and you can't see that it's a sphere and you go, it looks like a pancake, it's a circle. It doesn't mean it's flat. It depends on your
Do you
perspective.
think pancakes are flat?
I think they're circular. I
Do you
think the
think
earth is circular.
do you think they're flat though?
Oh yeah, I mean depends on well, I don't know. You've never
Okay.
seen them
And
Japanese pancakes?
if
Them
I
ain't
told
flat.
you that my basketball is like a pancake, that means that there's no air in my
Oh, by the
basketball
way,
and that
I
it
looked it
is
up.
I don't know why you keep
It does
talking
not
over
mean
me.
skirt. It does not mean edge. It
It
says to the
does.
ends of the earth. The
It
ends of the earth.
no, it does not.
That's the Hebrew interpretation.
Do you speak Hebrew?
I'm literally looking it up right now.
Yeah. You don't know Hebrew, do you?
I'm literally looking it up right now.
Is it kanaf? Is that the word?
Where to go? Hold on. Shoot, it took me to Genesis. No, what? I don't know. I can't pronounce it.
I
It's
know because you don't know
B
Hebrew.
K. I mean, you can talk. I did not deny that, did I? I'm pretty
Alright.
sure I said I don't
So,
know
I mean,
Hebrew.
just
I'm
being
sitting here
aware,
telling you though. I'm
telling
looking it up,
so
and that's not the word that
ju
you're saying
okay,
unless it's
okay,
pronounced
okay,
differently.
just so we're aware, you don't knowing Hebrew shouldn't be explaining Hebrew to a person who learned it. So I've already read these
So
passages in Hebrew, and I agree with the English translations. I think the English translations are good as a person who already knows Hebrew. So you don't know any Hebrew. You have literally no reason to be going into this text and correcting the people with the PhDs who actually do know Hebrew. It's like telling your doctor how to do surgery on you. Do you tell your mechanic how to fix your car?
it depends.
Yeah, I believe that.
Again, I'm looking up the word you said, and it says wing, extremity, edge, winged border, corner, shirt. None of this would
Oh,
describe the earth. So
funny
we're
skirt.
basing the
Yeah.
entire Bible off that word.
No, all of them. All of those words in that definition describe
The
the shape of
edge,
the earth according to the Bible, which has an edge. It doesn't
border,
match it doesn't match
corner.
it doesn't match the sphere of the earth because the people who wrote the Bible didn't know the earth was a sphere. They thought it was a flat disk.
What's the Hebrew word for sphere?
There's not one.
So wouldn't that possibly be why they didn't use a word because they didn't have a word for sphere? But you're
No,
telling me they didn't know spheres existed,
they knew spheres existed. There is no
but they didn't have a
word
word for
there's
it,
no word in biblical Hebrew to describe the
right?
sphere of the
So they
earth.
used a different
You
word
can
that was as close to it as possible, correct?
you can say it's like a ball. You can say it's
Did they have a word for ball?
there is a word for ball, yeah.
Do you know what it is?
Not off the top of my head. I can find it for you if you think it's really important, but it's not in the Bible.
Well, either way, like I said, I'm not basing my entire belief system off of what I believe is a metaphor or simile. I don't believe it was meant to be, oh, this is literal, this is what we meant. I
I never
believe
s
it was
It's a simile.
more
When
artistic
when
than
you
that,
say
huh?
something is like something else, it's a
Right,
simile. So
right.
what you need to ask yourself is how does similes work? That's why I gave you the example from my basketball. If I said my basketball is like a pancake, it means my basketball is currently flat.
And I understand. And that's what I was saying about perspective. As a human being standing on the earth, can you tell that it's round or does it not look like it is flat,
No, that's
that it
why
has
the
edges?
that's why the biblical authors saw it was flat because they were standing on the earth, they were looking around, and everybody thought it was flat. The problem is God knows it's
What's
not
wrong with
flat,
that?
and if God knows that it's not flat, he should have said so.
Why? Why is God obligated to tell us information like that?
No, he's obligated to not lie.
When did he lie?
If God describes the earth as being flat, then in fact he's lying.
When is he lying? Where does he say that the earth is flat? Where does God say the earth is flat?
We literally just read it.
I thought we just agreed that that was simile.
No, I agree that it's a simile, and similes have meanings, just like the simile of my basketball is like a pancake. That means my basketball is
Okay.
flat.
So my point is, as a God, you may know that the earth is round, but you're speaking to a human who does not see that. So how are you going to describe it to them other than what they know?
You can tell them that it's not flat. You don't have to describe it inaccurately. You can tell them that it's shaped like a ball. Thank you, Bertram, for the galaxy, by the way. You don't have to lie just because you think the words are hard.
I don't think it's a lie. I just think
It is a
you're
lie.
putting way too much stock in one word and
Oh,
saying,
no,
"Oh,
not
he
at
couldn't
all.
possibly have meant this. It couldn't possibly be
Nope.
that I'm reading it this
No,
way."
you'd be wrong. Because
Well,
every
then
because
I'm
every
wrong.
verse
My
in
whole oh God, I just
Every verse
oh
in the Bible
forgive me,
depicts the
Lord. I
earth
gotta
as
run
being
away.
flat, every single one. There's not a single verse in
Okay.
the Bible that would depict the earth as being anything but flat. That's why there's a dome over top of the earth that's hard like a cast metal mirror, according to Job 37. Jesus was taken up on the highest mountain and could see all the kingdoms of the earth. That only works with a flat earth. Everybody in the ancient world thought the earth was flat like a disc with a dome over top of it. That didn't change until the early medieval period. Actually,
I still am not getting the
actually
correlation on how that
the
means
the
God doesn't
Greeks
exist
the Greeks
because
actually figured it out, but other than the Greeks,
I
nobody knew
don't
it.
see how that again, if the Bible is a story about human and redemption through Jesus,
It's not
what
though.
does science have anything to do with it?
Well, how many lies do you think the Bible should have before I don't trust it?
I don't think they're lies. Like I said, I think it's
Well,
just an interpretation issue
how
in
many
culture. Like
how
I
many
don't think it's a
untrue
lie.
things do you think should be in the Bible before I don't have to trust it?
One.
One. So if the Bible
Yeah.
says one thing that's not true, then we
Yes.
shouldn't trust it.
Yep.
You sure about
100%.
that? If I show you
I am
so,
100%. Yeah.
if I show you
100% sure about that.
something if I show you something in the Bible is not true, what do you think? What
Yeah.
what, what would you do?
Bring it on.
No, tell me now. If I show you something in the Bible that's simply not true, then what would you do?
I would look into the context, find out is this meant to be literal? Is this a literal lie? Or is this, again, one of those metaphor things that you're reading differently and going, oh, see, God lied?
I didn't ask about metaphor. I asked if I showed you, it's hypothetical. If I showed you right now something in the Bible that de
If you can prove
facto,
to me that it's not true, yes,
oh, easy enough. We can start
let's do
with
it.
a statement that's not true, and then if you really want to get silly, we can go to straight up contradictions, or we can go to the historical errors too.
Okay.
So go. You already know where your New Testament is. We'll go to an easy book. Go to Mark chapter 1.
Okay.
Read Mark chapter 1 verses 1 through 3.
The beginning of the good news about Jesus the Messiah, the Son of God, as it is written in Isaiah the prophet, I will send my messenger ahead of you who will prepare your way, a voice of one calling in the wilderness. Prepare the way for the Lord, make straight paths for him.
Cool. Do you have a reference Bible?
No,
Where do you think quote from verse 2 came from when it says, "See, I'm sending my messenger ahead of you who will prepare your way"? Where do you think that quote comes from?
I would guess Isaiah because that's where it said.
You'd be wrong. Can you find me in Isaiah where that quote shows up?
I am trying right now.
Because it shows up identically in the Greek Septuagint version of Malachi chapter 1, which is why my cross-reference Bible says it's from Malachi, because it's from Malachi.
Isaiah 43. A
You'd be
voice of
wrong.
one calling in the wilderness, prepare the way for the Lord, make straight in the desert a highway for our God.
Yep,
Isaiah 43.
that's the wrong quote. That's verse 3. I asked about verse 2.
No, I'm reading you Isaiah 40, verse 3.
Right, which was quoted in Mark verse 3 of chapter 1. I'm asking you about verse 2 of chapter 1.
Hold on, let me go back to Mark 1. Verse 2 is as it is written in Isaiah the prophet. And then verse 3 is
Nope.
I will send my messenger ahead of you. I just
Verse
read you where it is in
verse
Isaiah.
2 says, "See, I'm sending my messenger ahead of you who will prepare your way."
No. Oh, hold
Well,
on. 2, as it is written in Isaiah the prophet, I will send my messenger ahead of you who will prepare your way.
there we go. Okay. The quote,
Hold
"See,
on.
I'm
Let me go
sending my
back to
messenger
Isaiah.
ahead of you." Where do you think you're going to find that?
That is the voice calling.
It's not.
Then who's calling the voice?
It's irrelevant. The quotation you're looking
That's the
for
messenger, is
in
what I'm
verse
saying. The
the
messenger is the
quotation
voice.
no. The quotation you're looking for is in Malachi chapter 1. Turn to Malachi 1. Read it.
I know. Like 1-1?
Yeah. Actually, I'm sorry, 3-1, not 1-1. That's my bad.
Malachi 3.
Yeah.
Uh, Malachi.
You can read it out loud for the class.
I'm trying. Hold on.
It's the
It's taking me out.
last
Hold
book
on.
of the Old Testament.
Malachi 2. It wouldn't let me see it because there was like a box in front of it. You said Malachi 3:1.
Mm-hmm.
I will send my messenger who will prepare the way before me. Then suddenly the Lord you are seeking will come to his temple. The messenger of the covenant whom you desire will come, says the Almighty Lord.
Yep. The sentence, see, I'm sending my messenger to prepare the way before me. That is what's being quoted in Mark chapter 1, verse 2. And if you compare it to what's in the Greek Septuagint, it reads almost word for word, which is what the New Testament quoted from. The New Testament almost always quotes from the Greek Old Testament, not the Hebrew.
But it does still say it in Isaiah, so I'm not understanding why that's an issue.
It doesn't say it in Isaiah.
It does. It says a voice of one calling, which is the messenger
That's
in the
verse
wilderness,
3.
prepare the way for the Lord.
Well, we'll try this
Which
again.
there's a
Okay.
good chance that Malachi was written based off of Isaiah because it was written later, correct?
No, we'll try this again. Okay. So the quote is attributed to Isaiah. Okay. It says in verse
Right.
2 that
But
this
Isaiah
is
said it first,
just
correct?
pay attention. No, Isaiah didn't say it first. Eliyana, it says, see, I am sending my messenger ahead of you who will prepare your way. That is a quotation that Mark says was written by Isaiah, but it's not. That is a quotation written by Malachi. Which means he got the wrong person.
But what I'm saying is Isaiah says it also.
It doesn't.
And Isaiah does predate Malachi.
It doesn't say it.
I read it to you that it
No,
does in
you didn't.
43. It says a voice calling. The voice is the messenger, and it's saying, make
Nope.
a path for the Lord.
You'd be wrong again. We're not
You
asking
can say
who.
I'm wrong, but
We're
I'm
not
looking
asking.
directly at
Oh,
it.
you are wrong. We're
A
not
voice of
asking.
one calling.
We're not
The messenger
asking. We're
in
not
the
asking
wilderness,
who the
prepare the
messenger
way for the
is.
Lord.
The messenger's irrelevant. The question is
That's what
who's.
you're fighting though.
No, it's not. It has
Is the
nothing.
messenger
Pay
part.
attention. It has nothing to do with what we're talking about. Not a single thing. The question we're answering here is who said the words. Okay.
Isaiah, I'm reading it to you.
Isaiah.
In the
Okay.
wilderness,
Okay.
prepare the way for the
Eliana.
Lord,
Eliana.
make
Stop.
straight.
Stop. 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 If you find me these words in Isaiah, I'll Venmo you $100 right now.
I just told you, look it up. I'm looking
No,
directly at it.
stop talking and listening. I will Venmo you $100 as we speak if you can find these words in Isaiah. And the words are, see, I'm sending my messenger ahead of you who will prepare your way. Find those words in Isaiah.
Say it again.
See, I am sending my messenger ahead of you who will prepare your way. That's the words. Those are the words that need to appear in Isaiah.
That it's talking about the messenger in
No,
Isaiah 40.
wrong
That's what
again.
I'm telling you.
No
You just
one
don't want to
cares.
accept it.
Eliana, we're not talking about the identity of the messenger. That's fucking relevant. We're talking about
I didn't
who
say anything about the
said
identity. I
the
said a voice
words.
calling is
Eliana,
referring to a messenger.
Eliana, I don't want to mute you. I don't want to mute you. So stop making me want to mute you, okay? Easy enough. I want to know who said the words. I don't care about the identity of the messenger. I want to know who said the words. Who said the
Okay, hold on.
words, see, I am sending my messenger ahead of you who will prepare your way? Who said those words?
Isaiah 57:14.
That's
Oh, shit, that's
close,
not it
but it's
either.
not it.
I'm
The,
still telling you, in my interpretation, a voice calling is saying a messenger. Is it in quotations? No.
that's the wrong verse. We're talking about the verse 2. Mark 1, verse 2. There's a quotation that says, "See, I'm sending my messenger ahead of you who will prepare your way." It's identical to what is said in Malachi 3:1. It doesn't show up in Isaiah.
That's what I'm telling you. We're disagreeing on because I'm seeing where it says a voice called.
We're
That
not
to me
asking
says a
about
messenger
the
called.
voice. We're not asking about that quotation. I'm not asking about verse 3. I'm asking you about verse 2. Verse 2 is a quotation from something. Where is that quote taken from?
It's in both Isaiah and in
Okay,
Malachi.
then give me the verse in Isaiah that's
Isaiah 40, verse 3.
it
I've
doesn't
already answered
it
this
doesn't
for
say
you.
that.
You just
It
don't
doesn't
want
say
to
that.
accept.
No, no.
I understand that
Try
it doesn't say it
Eliana.
verbatim the way
Eliana.
you're
It
expecting
doesn't
it.
say it at all.
Again, just because it doesn't say it the way you're
It
expecting it to
doesn't say
say it,
it at
this is
all.
semantics at this
It's not
point. Like,
semantics. It's a
it
direct
does
quote
say
from
a voice
Malachi.
called. A voice is a
It's
messenger in the
a
Bible.
it's a
Every time
direct
a voice is
quotation, Eliana. It's a direct quotation from Malachi. You just read Malachi.
what's the word for messenger in Old Testament Hebrew?
It's malach.
Okay. What does Malach usually represent? What do
Malach
they
is a
hear? What do
messenger.
they hear when they say, I heard the what of God?
A malach is any messenger. In fact, that's why most scholars believe that Malachi isn't even the name of the author of that particular prophecy. It's a pseudonym, meaning my messenger. In Hebrew, it
Okay.
means my
And what do they
messenger.
usually say when they say, I heard the what of God?
Listen, no one cares. The question is who made the quotation, and the quotation does not show up in Isaiah. It shows up in Malachi.
What represents the voice of God in the Old
He
Testament?
can't,
Is
he
it
can't,
not the
he can't help
angels, the
himself.
Malach?
No, God speaks directly and he speaks through the angel of the Lord. None of that's relevant. No one's,
But they're
we're,
all considered messengers,
Eliana,
correct?
I don't know if you're paying attention here.
I am. You're
We're not,
not.
we're
You're
not,
not. You're not getting what I'm putting down here,
Eliana,
man. The
we're not
voice is the
talking,
messenger.
Eliana, we're not
You're
talking about,
looking for a direct quote and it's not there.
okay, I'm going to mute you. Eliana, we don't care who the messenger is. No one cares. That's not the purpose of the inquiry. The only purpose is who said the words. And right before I muted you, you admitted it. The quotation, "See, I'm sending my messenger ahead of you who prepare your way," it doesn't show up in Isaiah, does it? I need a yes or no for this before we're going to move on. Yes or no? Does that quotation show up in Isaiah?
Directly in
Yeah.
quotations? No.
Yeah. Okay. Does it show
Not
up
in quotations.
does it show up somewhere else?
Yes. Where did Malachi get it?
Okay, there we go. So Malachi has the quotation. Isaiah
Where did he
doesn't.
get it?
It's
Why
from
is it in
God.
quotations in Malachi?
He got it from God. Mark screwed up.
No, he is quoting Isaiah.
He's not. He's not quoting Isaiah because Isaiah doesn't say it.
He did though. You just don't like
He
the
did.
way it was said.
He
That's
did
what we're
not.
arguing about for no
No,
reason. He did. He said a voice
Malachi
calling, that is the
did not quote
messenger
Isaiah
making the
because
way.
Isaiah didn't say it.
The voice is referring to the messenger. So Isaiah did
Malachi
say it. You
did
just don't
not
like how
quote.
it was
No.
said.
We'll try this again. So verse 3, okay, is almost word for word copied from Isaiah. Verse 2 is almost word for word copied from Malachi. The problem you have here is you have a composite quote. The author of Mark thinks it came from the same person. It doesn't. The first part of the quote comes from Malachi. The second part of the quote comes from Isaiah.
What about it makes it incorrect to
Because
you?
it didn't
What makes the
come from
difference?
Isaiah.
But part of it did.
It did not.
We already admitted that. We've already read that. You can't deny that.
Verse
Isaiah
3
did say it.
does. Verse 3 comes from Isaiah.
Okay.
Verse 2
So
comes
how
from
is it
Malachi.
incorrect?
Because Malachi
again,
said it, not Isaiah.
But we're debating on that first part where it says a voice called. That to me is the messenger.
No, we're
you
not.
just don't like that it's
Eliana,
not the same
that's
word.
not the debate. We are not debating who the voice is. That has nothing to do with what's happening right now. Only thing we're answering right now is who.
Are you not understanding what I'm saying? Like, I don't know how to break this down in English any better, sir.
Eliana, you're not understanding what I am
the voice is the
saying.
messenger. It was written a different way.
Okay, we'll try this again. We don't give a flying fuck who the voice is. The only thing we care about here is who said the words? That's what we want to know. Who said the words? Okay. The words in verse 2 were spoken by Malachi. You already admitted it. The words in verse 3 were spoken by Isaiah. Those are two different authors. You have no reason whatsoever to believe that Malachi was quoting Isaiah, because if he was quoting Isaiah, we could find those words in Isaiah, and we don't find those words in Isaiah.
You don't want to look at it. Isaiah
So
40:30.
I know
He did say
you
it.
were talking the whole time.
Isaiah 40:30. That's where he got it from. You don't want to admit to
It's
it. So
not in
what's your
there.
next incorrect thing in the Bible? Because we're just going to go in circles on this one.
Okay, so I crushed you on that. I'll find something even easier for you.
Yeah,
I'll
you
find
did.
something
You got me.
easier for your lying
You got me.
face.
Okay.
All this requires is for you to know numbers. Do you know how numbers work?
The book of Numbers
No, numbers. Do you know how
or
numbers work? Like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5?
no? Could you teach me that real quick? I don't
Okay.
really
Do you think
know.
the number 3 and the number 7 are the same number?
Again, what's the context?
Do you think there needs to be context to know if 7 and 3 are the same number?
It depends on what you're talking about.
But I'm talking about the value of the number 3 and the value of the number 7. Are they the same value?
No.
Okay. Now, turn in your Bible over to
Mm-hmm.
First Chronicles 21.
You said 21.
Yep.
Okay.
We're going to go to verse 11.
So Gad went to David and said to him, "This is what the Lord says. Take your choice." Am I keep going?
Yep. Read verse
3
12 as
years
well.
of famine, 3 months of being swept away before your enemies with the swords overtaking you, or 3 days of the sword of the Lord, days of plague in the land, and the angel of the Lord ravaging every part of Israel. Now then, decide, how should I answer the one who sent me?
Okay. So we have a fantastic story where David is going to be punished and his people are going to be punished because he took the census. Now, this story
Uh-huh.
is told again in Samuel. It's told in Samuel and it's told in Chronicles. So we're going to read the parallel to this from Samuel. That's going to be in 2 Samuel 24.
Hold on one second. Here it is. Oh, sorry. Okay. That was,
And you can start in verse
which one is it?
12.
Where are we going?
2 Samuel 24:12.
Second Samuel. You said 24:12?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Go ahead and read 12 and 13.
Go and tell David, this is what the Lord says. I am giving you 3 options. Choose one of them for me to carry out against you. So Gad went to David and said to him, shall there come on you 3 years of famine?
Should say 7. Your Bible corrected it, didn't it? What Bible translation are you using?
It's the NIV.
Why? Why would you use that? Is
Why
there
would I
is
not?
there a
Which one
foot
would you like me to
is there a
use?
footnote where it says 7 that tells you that the Hebrew text actually says 3? I bet there is. The Hebrew text says 7, not 3. I got the NIV open now. Let me see what it
Do you know which
says.
one it came out of?
Yeah, so in the NIV, if you
In
go
the
to
Septuagint?
oh no, the Septuagint, if you, depending on which recension you're in, there is a version of the Septuagint that says 3, not 7.
What were we just in? First Samuel or Second Samuel what?
2 Samuel 24. And the NIV says 3 years of famine. The Hebrew text doesn't. The Hebrew text doesn't say that, which is why there's a footnote. Actually, there's not even a footnote on the online version. Typically, there is a footnote for it. Let me turn the footnotes on here. Let me see if I can turn footnotes on. There we go. Yeah. It says in the Hebrew, 7. Also, it doesn't I don't think even in all of the Septuagint versions it says 3. So the Septuagint, when they translated it into Greek, they fixed it. They went through and said, "Nope, that should be 3. We don't like that."
But you deny that there weren't mistranslations that they had to fix throughout the history where somebody it was like a clerical error
How do you know they fixed it?
because you have multiple different texts. So you compare all the texts and whichever one has the most right ones in it, that's the one you usually
Right?
go with
So
because
so
clearly this one was written wrong.
so follow along, okay? Pay
Hmm.
attention. It was written in Hebrew originally. The
Yeah.
authors of at least one of the recensions of the Septuagint came along and said, "No, we don't like that. It contradicts the other passage. We're going to change it to 3."
How do you
What?
know that?
Because the Hebrew text doesn't say 3, it says 7. The Greek is a translation of the Hebrew.
But the Hebrew text could not have been incorrect, that the one that they were translating it to, and then they
That's
realized, wait, this
that's the
doesn't match all
point.
the other texts we
That's the
have.
point. The Hebrew text, the original text of the Bible had a contradiction in it. That's the point.
What I'm saying is we have many texts of many different books of the Bible, correct?
We
Probably the
do.
most text
Okay.
in the world of anything ever written
Can
is the
you
Bible,
find me
correct?
a Hebrew text without this contradiction? The Bible was written in Hebrew, not in Greek. The answer is no, there's not one. Just so you're aware.
But Chronicles is written in Greek, correct?
No, they're both written in Hebrew.
Then what does writing it in Greek have to do with anything?
The Greek is a translation of the Hebrew. When they translated it into Greek, they said, "We don't like this contradiction. We're going to change it." That's why I read from the Hebrew Old Testament, because that's what it was originally written in. The same reason, like when we read from the English translation, you want to go back to the original language. You want to go back to what it was written in. That's what I'm doing. I'm saying the Old Testament was written in Hebrew. That's the language I'm appealing to. I'm not appealing to someone who came along later and tried to fix a contradiction.
I'm not saying anybody was trying to fix a contradiction. I'm saying it was a fix of a scribal error. It could have been that. Or there's another interpretation where there was already famine going on that had already lasted for 4 years. And so they're adding three more.
Oh no, that's certainly not true. Because if you just read 2 Samuel chapter 21, the famine ended. So after they put to death 7 of Saul's sons to avenge the Gibeonites, God ends the famine. It's like it down in like verse 14 or something. I forget where it's at. So no, it's not the extension of a famine. It's just a contradiction.
How you know David didn't just piss God off more?
It's the same story.
I know. How you know he didn't change his mind?
God can't change his mind according to the book.
Actually, he can. He did multiple times in the
Well,
Bible.
it sounds like you found out your next contradiction because Numbers 23:19 and 1 Samuel 15:29 says he can't change his mind. She walked right into that one. Have you read Numbers
Where does it say God
23:19?
can't change his mind?
It's Numbers 23:19 and 1 Samuel 15:29.
I'm sorry, which one?
Numbers 23:19
Oh crap! I was in 24. That's why.
says, "God is not a human being that he should lie, or a mortal that he should change his mind. He has promised and he will do it. He has spoken and will he not fulfill it?" And then we get the same thing in 1 Samuel 15. Moreover, the glory of Israel will not deceive or change his mind, for he is not immortal that he should change his mind. You know God changes his mind. You've read Exodus 32, haven't you?
Hmm?
You know that God changes his mind in the book.
Eh, again, it's debatable on what you say is a change of
It's
mind.
not. It directly says it in Exodus 32. It says God changed his mind about the destruction he was going to bring upon Israel.
I'm sorry. I'm still trying to find the one in numbers.
Yep, Numbers
23
20,
what?
23:19.
319. Again, it's talking about his promises and fulfilling them.
What
He
does it
didn't promise anything to David because he was asking David to choose.
and what did it say in Numbers 23:19 about his character?
That he does not change his mind. But again, that's
Okay.
what I'm saying in
So if
Exodus,
God doesn't change his mind, that means he doesn't change his mind.
right? I'm not denying that.
Also, you don't have to send me $100. Kyle Boyd just sent me $100, says I won already. Thanks, Kyle. I appreciate that. Trust me, we know Christians aren't going to admit to the truth. Big W, Kyle. Okay, and First Samuel
You're just
15, 1 Samuel 15:29 says the same thing. It says, he will not deceive or change his mind, for he is not
when
immortal
God,
that he should change his mind.
once God promises something, he has not changed his mind. The thing he changed his mind about in Exodus was basically, I'm gonna kill all these people. And Moses was like, well, don't. And then I was like, all right, I won't.
Yeah,
He
he changed his
never
mind.
said
He
for
said, "Move
sure,
aside,
like,
I
oh,
will wipe them out." And then it literally says that God
you don't
changed
believe
his
that that was a
mind.
test,
No,
that God never intended to actually do it.
the text says he changed his mind. You want to read it? I think it's verse
But
14.
do you believe that God had actually made up his mind in that moment, or was that a test for Moses to see if Moses would stand up for his people?
I think neither, and I'll tell you why. Because in your worldview, you think God is all knowing, right?
Yeah,
Okay. Now, if God is all knowing, that means he literally can't change his mind. And if that's the case, that means he
right.
lied. Now, what we find in Exodus 32:14 is a statement that says, and the Lord changed his mind about the disaster that he planned to bring on his people. If he was just testing them, then he wouldn't have changed his mind.
I don't know. I'm the type who would probably disagree with numbers that God can't change his mind, but that's just me.
Yeah, I trust me, I agree. I think the statement saying that God can't change his mind or doesn't change his mind, I think they're false because the God of the Bible does change his mind, which means yet again we found a contradiction within the Bible. There's a bunch of them. Want to read my favorite?
Sure.
Let's go to Hebrews 9:22. Now, Hebrews 9:22 makes a really interesting statement about the Old Testament law. It says that indeed under the law almost everything is purified with blood, and without the shedding of blood there is no forgiveness of sins. Do you agree with that statement?
Sorry, say that one more time.
Right. The author of Hebrews says that without the shedding of blood there is no forgiveness of sins.
That's what you're asking if I believe is true?
Yeah.
According to God, yes.
Okay. So what I shouldn't be able to do is go in the Old Testament and find forgiveness without blood.
You said what you should not be able to do?
Right.
Yes.
Okay. Have you read Leviticus?
No.
All right. Go to Leviticus chapter 5, and we're going to go to verse 11 ish. Yeah, it's 11.
Chapter, you said 5:11?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
There's a sin offering described here that says, if you cannot afford two turtle doves or two pigeons, you shall bring as your offering for the sin that you have committed 1/10 of an ephah of choice flour for a purification offering, so on and so forth. And then you make the purification offering. So all you need is 1/10 of an ephah of choice flour in some situations.
And where did it say you have to have the blood?
Hebrews 9:22 says there's no forgiveness without the shedding of blood.
I mean, in all technicality, though, in Leviticus, other people were shedding blood, so there was blood being shed.
That does flour
But
bleed?
I guess here's the problem that I would disagree with you on that aspect of it is because Jesus is determined to be God. If he sheds his blood, it's shed for eternity because God is outside of time.
We're making a
So
statement
even in the
about the law.
past, even in the Old Testament, you will see that there is forgiveness prior to Moses without blood.
Right, another contradiction, right? So, but the problem is in Hebrews 9, he's talking about the law, right? Like 3/4 of the book of Hebrew is dealing with why in the world did the law of Moses have to happen? Why do we have this sacrificial system, right? And he's saying that in the old sacrificial system, there was no forgiveness without the shedding of blood. That's the context. But if you actually read the sacrificial system, you know there's lots of times where there's forgiveness without the shedding of blood, like what we just read.
But I guess that's where I'm saying my context would take that as Jesus, when he shed his blood, it's shed for all eternity. So whoever abides in him, even prior
No,
to him, is going to have that forgiveness.
Hebrews is not making a statement about Jesus, it's making a statement about the law of Moses. It says, under the law of Moses, there's no forgiveness without the shedding of blood. All right, I'm going to show you one more passage, and then I'm going to move on to the next guest. We have been people waiting for a while. We're going to go to um, Jeremiah 31:15 through 17. Have you read Jeremiah 31 before?
I've read Jeremiah. I can't remember if I got all the way to the 31.
Yeah. It's a long read, don't worry. Okay, in Jeremiah, the main context is that the Israelites are being sent into Babylon as punishment for their sins. In fact, God even says in Jeremiah that he's going to punish you doubly in Babylon for your sins. But anyways, it says in chapter 25 that the Israelites are going to be there for 70 years and then they're going to come back. They're going to come back from the land of the enemy. We find something very similar to this in chapter 31 verse 15,
Is this where
16.
the amount of people are different?
No.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. Verse 15 says, thus saith the Lord, a voice is heard in Ramah, lamentation and bitter weeping. Rachel is weeping for her children. She refused to be comforted for her children because they are no more. Thus saith the Lord, keep your voice from weeping and your eyes from tears, for there is a reward for your work, says the Lord. They shall come back from the land of the enemy. There is hope for your future, says the Lord. Your children shall come back to their own country. Now, given what you know about the book of Jeremiah, when it was written, why it was written, what would be a plain text understanding of what was just read?
That the Israelites are going to go back to Jerusalem?
Yeah, they're gonna come back, right? They're gonna go into
Right,
exile, and then they're gonna come back. It seems pretty simple.
right.
It matches all the rest of Jeremiah, not a problem. Now,
Okay.
the problem I have is if you go to Matthew chapter 2, like verse 17 through 19, Matthew says about the babies in and around Bethlehem when they were slaughtered by Herod, he says, then what had been spoken through the prophet Jeremiah was fulfilled. A voice is heard in Ramah, wailing in loud lamentation, Rachel weeping for her children. She refused to be consoled because there are no more. But we just read it. That doesn't match the context, nor does it have anything to do with what Jeremiah was talking about, which means Matthew's making stuff up.
Not necessarily, because I do
Yeah.
believe there are many prophecies in the Bible that aren't only fulfilled one time.
Well, how many fulfillments did they get? Three, four, five, six?
But that's up to God. I'm not God.
So you don't know. So how do you know that Joseph Smith wasn't the third fulfillment?
Because it never says anything about Joseph Smith
Well, it
coming in the
does.
Bible.
It
Where?
certainly does. Genesis 49, but it certainly doesn't say anything about Jesus either. So all of the prophecies about Jesus are applied identically the same way the prophecies about Joseph Smith are applied. They're the same. They're
How
all of
so?
them are completely divorced from the actual context of the prophet. There's not a single prophecy in the Old Testament where the original context of the prophecy was fulfilled in Jesus. Not one.
How so?
I just showed you. I showed you an easy prophecy from the book of Matthew, and it clearly isn't talking about the Messiah. It's talking about people coming back from the land of Babylon to their homeland. So it can't be applied to the children that are being slaughtered in Bethlehem because it has nothing to do with the Babylonian exile, and they're certainly not coming back to their own land. They're dead. They're gone.
And you're saying that's what he's trying to say it is?
That's what Matthew says. Yes.
Hold
Matthew
on. I
says,
gotta look up Matthew because I didn't have that pulled up.
yeah,
Which one was it? Matthew what?
Matthew 2, verses 17 and 18.
Thank you. Matthew 2.
Also, while you're finding it, you know how we're not talking over each other right now?
Mhm.
It's because I don't talk over you unless you talk over me. That's my rule. So if you ever come back, just know I won't talk over you. But if you talk over me, I'll definitely talk over you.
I really was not trying to. I just feel like what I was trying to answer wasn't good enough for you. And it's like, I don't know how else to word it. I'm
Be-
trying to say it the best I can.
because it had nothing to do with what I was talking about.
I felt like it did, but either way. But this is just talking about the voice heard in Rama, the weeping in the great mourning, and Rachel weeping for her children. It's not continuing on to the next part of it.
I know. Yeah.
So I
Prophecies
don't
have
understand
context.
why that can't be considered a separate thing of just saying, hey, this matches the same deal.
It's not a separate prophecy. Context matters. You can't just say the entire chapter is about the Babylonian exile, but this one sentence, this one phrase, I'm just going to pull it out and say, no, that's something
But
different.
if you do keep going in Matthew, it talks about the return to Nazareth.
No, they didn't
And it
return to
says,
no,
after Herod died, an angel of the Lord,
Jesus. Jesus returned to Nazareth.
it says, get up, take the child. And yeah, so I don't,
Go to Egypt. Yeah. It has nothing to do with Jeremiah 31. That's a fulfillment from Hosea chapter 11, which also isn't a prophecy.
so then how do you explain Jesus?
He's a liar and a fraud. That
Why would he
fulfilled
lie?
that fulfilled 0 messianic prophecies. He lied because he's a fraud. Now, I actually don't think he thought he was a fraud. I think he was convinced that he was the Messiah and he was just wrong.
But is it not a general consensus that people do agree he lived?
Yeah, I
They
agree.
do agree he
Yeah,
died.
just like
And they
Muhammad.
do
Yeah.
agree that a lot of people believe they saw him resurrected.
No, we don't agree on that. I think there
Why
was
not?
probably only one disciple that saw him resurrected, and I don't even think they saw him. I think based on the historical context that we have, one disciple saw an imposter pretending to be Jesus and told all the other disciples, and in their state of grief, they were willing to believe it. It's the minimum witnesses theory developed initially by Paulogia. I modified it slightly.
And you truly believe that these people just were willing to lay their lives down over something they didn't see.
Yep, happens all the time. In fact, when Nero resurrected from the dead, you might not know this. Nero was claimed to resurrect from the dead by lots of different sources, and in fact, there was an impostor that was so convincing that the Parthian army went to war, believing that they were going to march into Rome and put the resurrected Nero back on the throne, and then they got slaughtered.
So you also believe Mount Sinai never happened and that all the Jews were convinced that they saw it.
Well, I don't think the Jews were convinced of it, and I certainly don't believe that the Mount Sinai nonsense happened. No.
So how do you believe that Judaism started?
I think Judaism started like most ancient religions. It started with legends and stories, and the legends and stories grow over time. I think a good example of this is the Epic of Gilgamesh. The original or the oldest edition we have from ancient Sumer was short, maybe 6 to 8 tablets. That's it. Very short story. And then over the course of time, it grew. It grew and grew and grew. And now, based on what we have from the Neo-Assyrian period, the Epic of Gilgamesh is like it's almost 3 times as long as the original. These large meta narratives, they grow over time. Was there a group of people that probably lived near the Sinai desert region that maybe worshipped a god that was based out of Midian, and then they moved northward into the Judean foothills and created an empire for themselves called Judea? Yeah, I think that's probably what happened. Do I believe that 2.5 million Jews left Egypt and wandered in the desert for 40 years, and then God gave them a revelation on the mountain? No, that's silly. That doesn't even make sense. We have no evidence of
But
two and a half million Jews.
then what basis of belief do they have if nobody can say, "Yeah, we saw that"?
They don't. That's why like half of Jews today are atheists.
I'm saying how would it have started? How could you get a religion up and running on a lie?
The same way Muhammad did.
I know, but Muhammad was the only one who said he saw anything.
So what?
There was many a witnesses with the Jews who saw it.
No, there are thousands of people that claim to have seen Muhammad split the moon in two. You don't think he split the moon in two, do you?
Where is that?
It's in the Hadiths.
Who said that they saw it?
Thousands of people. There are accounts by Tacitus and Suetonius claiming that Emperor Vespasian healed a person of a lame leg and blindness. Do you think Emperor Vespasian healed a person in front of a multitude of witnesses?
If there were witnesses, I why would I deny it?
See, that's my point, though. Like these types of claims, like these miraculous claims, they exist all over the ancient world. They're abundant in every religion, and the reason why they exist is because they're untestable, they're unfalsifiable. They exist
I
in the
guess
past.
the problem for me though is what's the motive? What's the motive? Because when you look back at the culture in which Judaism arose from, everything that the Jews were doing was completely opposite. It was that's why it was
Mm-mm.
considered quote unquote holy. It's set apart. You are to be set apart from these people.
Well,
What would be the purpose if it goes against all of human nature to be prideful, to store up wealth, to take like I don't understand the motive, I guess, because you kind of act like it's well, it's to keep people in line, but not really because
I didn't say
that's
that.
not what they were all about at that point.
I didn't say any of that. So, the reason why you have like these ancient narratives for ancient Israel is because that's what everyone else in the ancient world was doing. So, all the other people in the ancient world were giving animal sacrifices and grain sacrifices. Everybody else in the ancient
Mhm.
world were doing all the same thing that Israel was doing. There's almost
Well,
no difference.
that's not true. They were sacrificing babies.
No, that's not
They
true.
were raping the women. They were
That's
raping the
not true.
men.
That's not true.
How is it not true?
But
They
those
have
aren't true.
evidence of this.
No, there's not.
How is this not true?
There's no evidence of it. These are claims made by the Bible to villainize people that they want to slaughter. These are not things that happened in history.
Well, I guess you've never seen that movie Apocalypse.
I don't watch movies.
Well, they definitely human sacrifices definitely existed. That's not a debatable topic.
I'm not saying that nobody in the world ever did a human sacrifice. We know the Aztecs were doing it. We're talking about the infant sacrifices to Molech that are in the Bible. Those things have no historical backing.
I'm pretty sure they found the altars of it, no?
They did not.
So basically you're just saying everybody's been good from the beginning and they created the religion for what then?
They created religion the same reason why everybody else had their own religion. The same reason why the Babylonians had a religion, the same reason why the Greeks had their own religion. They were fundamental mythologies for their people group that serve to explain why things are. That's why we find in the book of Genesis, almost everything in the book of Genesis is an explanation for why stuff is the way that it is today. Well, let me tell you why it is the way today. Why do we not like Ammon and Moab? Well, we don't like them because they were born from an incestual union, an evil union between Lot and his two daughters. Easy. I mean, everything in Genesis 3 is an explanation. Why do snakes crawl in our bellies? Why is there birth child pains? Why do we have to farm to get food for ourselves when the earth was made for us? Genesis is a book of mythological origin stories for the people.
I hate to say it, dude, but it makes more sense than everything else I've ever heard. And no offense, but when it comes down to it, because I'll let you get on to other people, the Bible could be 100% wrong. God cannot exist. But ultimately, the teachings of Jesus do help people. They help them be better people. They help us treat each other better. If all humans were to help each other and be a community again,
Yeah, I
say you
disagree.
lost your job tomorrow, and I'm like, hey, I'll feed you, man. I don't care. And say something bad happens to me and you show up for me, you're telling me community wouldn't be a whole lot better. And that's all in the Bible.
I
So I don't
disagree
understand why we want to hate something that really could help everyone.
because the Bible says you can own slaves and you have to stone gay people too.
That's all in the Old Testament, for
So
one.
God approved of it. Jesus said to follow the law.
But it is wicked, and I'm sorry, whoever
The
out there is
law?
gay, I don't mean any offense, but it is.
Okay, that's the problem. That's why the religion is vile. Do you think that women should be stoned if they don't bleed on their wedding night?
I'm sorry, say that again?
Do you think the women should be stoned if they don't bleed on their wedding night? Because Deuteronomy 22 thinks so.
If they don't bleed on their wedding night,
Yeah,
why would you want your wife to bleed on her wedding night?
it's a sign that she's a virgin.
But how could that possibly time up to her wedding night?
Because that's the first time you do the thing. Ancient Hebrews had sex at
Oh,
the
I get what you
wedding.
mean. I thought you were talking about a menstrual cycle. I'm sorry. I'm so confused.
No, no,
My
no.
bad. I get what you mean now.
Yep.
I thought you were talking about her cycle, and I was like, well, what does that have to do with it? I mean, if it's a lie, it's a lie.
Do you think it's justified to be stoned if you don't bleed?
Why would you lie about it?
I'm not asking whether or not she lied. I said, do you think it's justified to stone a girl if she doesn't bleed?
I believe the way it was written was probably based on whether or not she was telling the truth and if they were trying to trick somebody.
No one's asking whether or not she told the truth. I'm asking you if that woman does not bleed on her wedding night, should she be stoned?
If she lied, possibly. If not, probably not.
Are you aware that only about 43% of women bleed their first time?
No, I'm not aware of that because that was not my experience.
Which means almost all of the women brought up on charges probably would have been innocent. They would have been the 40 or the
Do you
57% that
truly
don't
believe
bleed.
these people were actually going through with it, though? Like, do you truly believe they stoned their children if their children weren't behaving?
I could care less. God said to do it. Whether or not they actually did it is irrelevant. The fact that God
I
told
guess
them
the
to
way
do
I
it
look at
is
that
a
is
problem.
I'm not God. I don't know God's reasoning for things. I don't know the cultural references. I don't know all that. All I know is what I can say is say the world's gone to shit. You have all this money. You built a
Yeah.
city, but you want people to come live there. And you say, but I have these laws. These are
God
my rules for my city if you want to come live in it.
God gave
And
the
you can
reason.
either, hold on, you can either agree and come live in my city, or you can disagree and you can stay out in the wilderness.
God gave the reason. Want to hear it?
Yeah.
Verse 21, it says, "They shall bring the young woman out to the entrance of her father's house, and the men of her town shall stone her to unalivement because she committed a disgraceful act in Israel by prostituting herself in her father's house. So you shall purge the evil from your midst." The goal of
Yeah.
this exercise is to purge the evil from your midst, but it actually isn't purging evil from your midst because most of the women that would have been stoned were innocent.
Not necessarily.
Yeah,
But again, you're assuming that they would not have bled. You're assuming that God would have allowed an innocent woman to not bleed and then be stoned to death. And I don't believe that is what I'm saying. I believe that God had his reasons for doing that. And most likely it is because God knew if that was going to happen, that they were lying.
well, it doesn't matter because that trend of women not bleeding their first time continued for thousands of years. In fact, we have got documentation of it by the ancient Jewish rabbis and by the early Greeks and the early Romans. They came to the same conclusion as well that not all women bleed their first time because not all women have the same biological anatomy. Not all women are the same. And remember, they came to this conclusion before Jesus came. They already knew it. If you were honest, Eliana, right now you would say that's kind of disgusting. I need to go think about that.
I grew up Christian.
I know, I
I
could
fell
tell.
away from the faith. No, let me finish. I
Sorry.
fell away from the faith for like 20 years. I was on heroin for 10 years. Jesus was the only thing that saved me. So, is there things in the Bible that is hard for me to understand and hard for me to accept in my day and age and what I know now? Yes, there is. But ultimately, I do believe that if there is a God and God exists, that he knows way better than what I know. His ways are way more perfect than what I can ever come up with. And I can't sit here and question, well, what about this? Well, what about that? Well, why do you do this? Well, why do you do that? I know ultimately he has a purpose for everything he has done, every law that was written. It was all to prove something, it was all to show something, it was all to lead to Jesus. And I do believe Jesus came and died to save us. I don't see any other reason why a human would come here and say, yeah, I'm the Messiah and I'm going to be tortured to death. For what? I don't see any motive that makes sense in my little tiny human brain
Because he
to
thought
wrap my
he
head
needed
around why
to.
people would have done that and what motive would have been behind it, because he didn't gain riches,
But
he didn't
he
gain
thought
power.
he needed to. He thought he would be resurrected and would do whatever it is he thought he was gonna do. The same reason why David Koresh willingly went to his death at Waco. We have all kinds of cult leaders that willingly went to their deaths. Brigham Young
But
and Joseph Smith were both martyred
no,
for their
let's
religion.
let's get a little honest about this. Was
I
David
I
Koresh
have
having sex with all the women? Was he collecting everybody's property? Did he have power?
well, he had power and he did have many wives, but he didn't steal anyone's property. But you're actually
Yes,
missing the
he did,
point.
because everybody, same with Jim
He had
Jones.
the opportunity to save his life and he chose not to.
Same with Jim Jones. Everybody had to turn their property over to them.
Well, Jim Jones is a
They
different
owned nothing.
person.
Huh?
Jim Jones is a different person. We're talking about
I
David
know. I'm
Koresh.
saying it's the same deal when you have cult leaders like that.
I know.
It doesn't matter what they believe. Ultimately, when you break it down, you know why they did what they did. They did it because they got women. They did it because they got money. They did it because they got power.
No, that's not always the
That's all they
case.
needed.
That's certainly
Huh?
not always the case. There's all kinds of cult leaders in the East that don't have money, power, or women. Like if you follow the
Who?
Eastern religions, there's all kinds of faith healers that basically live in the streets. Think of like even people like I would use the people like Gandhi. Like Gandhi is not necessarily a cult leader, but there's lots of people in different religions that forsake all worldly riches and carnal relations. Just the fact that Jesus did something similar to that doesn't make him right. Like the fact all you need is what's in the Bible. The Bible's just not true. He didn't fulfill any prophecies, not even one. He's a liar. He's a fraud.
But people would debate you on that and say he fulfilled numerous, like hundreds of
And
prophecies.
they'll fail. They'll fail. I've been running the argument that Jesus fulfilled zero prophecies for 2 years now. Not a
Have you ever
single
debated somebody who knows as much about the Bible as you?
yeah, I've debated pastors and bishops and they all fail.
Do you have videos on it?
There's probably pastors, but not bishops. The last bishop I talked to was before I was streaming to YouTube, but there's definitely some pastors in my YouTube queue or in my YouTube backlog.
I mean, like, would you have like Wes Huff on there?
Anytime you bring, I will literally debate the Pope. You bring him on here.
I'm honestly just curious because, like I said, for me, it is more of a feeling. I do believe a lot of what they've said. Now you have me questioning it, like I need to go look into it. But ultimately, what's the other option?
I
Just
think,
think that all of this is pointless.
well,
And what's the point of living, anyways, then? Because
uh,
it's all for crap, anyways.
Eliana, I think the point is
That's just depressing.
you need to believe in yourself. So I know a lot about drug addiction. I've got a lot of it in my family as well, and I've seen what it does to both the people that use and to the family. And so I can tell you that getting off of heroin is hard. Like you did something that's nearly impossible, and you should congratulate yourself for doing it because most people can't do it. That being said, The reason why NA and AA work is because of a placebo effect. It's the same reason why you believing in Jesus can get you through your heroin addiction. That works for every religion. There are people in Buddhism, there are people in the Hindu faith, there are people
But
in
it
Islam.
didn't.
Hold on. There are people in the Islamic faith, and they all claim that they were able to overcome addictions with those gods, right? And the reason why it works across all faiths is because it's a placebo effect, not because all of those gods exist.
I did AA. I did.
Mhm.
It did not work. I mean, it worked for a few months.
It's not one size fits all. That's what I'm saying.
I don't know. Again, what's the other alternative? This
There
is all for nothing.
what's all for nothing?
Life. Why wake up and pay your bills? Why wake up and deal with people being rude and mean and hateful? Why watch wars? Why watch people suffer? What's the point then? Why don't we all just kill ourselves? I mean, why
Because
bother?
if you're watching a
Whoa.
movie, Benny, I'm sorry, she can't hear you because she's on YouTube.
Oh yeah. I
But
just wanted to say whoa.
oh, sorry, um, Eliana, if you're watching a movie, you know the movie is going to end. Are you gonna be like, "Well, fuck it, I'm not gonna finish the movie"?
That depends on the movie.
Well, I mean, listen, if it's a dog shit movie, yeah, I get you. But I mean, if you're enjoying the movie and you know it's going to end, you're not gonna be like, "Well,
But
I'm just
that's
gonna stop watching now because I know it's gonna be over."
I guess that's what I'm saying. What is there else to enjoy then?
But that's what I'm saying. Like, what we are enjoying is where we are at now. Like, for example, there's some wisdom in the Bible. If you read the book of Ecclesiastes, he goes through this whole narrative of like everything comes to an end. The author of Ecclesiastes did not believe in an afterlife. That's abundantly clear if you read the book. And he has to answer the same question as you do. In fact, the Epic of Gilgamesh was written to answer the same question. We've been having existential crisis in literature for all of human history. And both in Gilgamesh and in the book of Ecclesiastes, the author comes to a very poignant conclusion. Yes, it's all going to come to an end, but we can enjoy what we have now. We can make our life great. We can make others' lives great, even though it's going to end. It's okay.
I guess the only other point I would make is I do look at God as a parent, and you have a son, correct?
Mhm.
Okay. So when your son wants all kinds of things that you know are bad for him, are you going to give it to him?
Not if it's bad for him.
Okay. If he does do something bad, are you going to let it go, or is there some going to be a punishment possibly?
No,
Some sort of consequence for this is what you did you knew you shouldn't have.
he'll get corrected because his brain's not developed yet.
Same with us, man. That's what I'm saying. If God created all of us, he's above all us. He knows better.
But that I don't think that has anything to do with
We're
what we're
just a bunch of
saying.
children. Huh?
I don't think that has anything to do with what I'm saying. Like, whether or not you think God is a good father is irrelevant to whether or not God actually exists. Like, even if you
I'm
believe
saying
in
when you look at things in the Bible and it looks like, "Oh my god, I can't see why he would do that." To me, that's where I come back to I'm not God. I don't have his ultimate understanding of how life is going to play out. And even if it looks horrendous to me, there's a good reason. Like I think I heard you talking about natural disasters.
Mhm.
It's nature, like
Well,
hurricanes do rearrange things that end up causing growth later.
but
Volcanoes create growth.
that do they destroy human life?
Why would you live near it? You know what I'm saying?
Not
That's our
everyone
choice.
not
It's
everyone
like
has a
it's like
choice. I don't
saying, "Hey, I'm gonna take you to the Grand Canyon. Don't jump off the cliff, you'll die." Somebody
no,
jumps off the cliff and then goes, "Man, you let me jump off the cliff. Man, I told you not to."
there's literally nowhere on earth you can live where you're not gonna be in danger of some kind of natural disaster. I live
But
in
that's just
the
life,
most
no?
boring place in the USA. There's no volcanoes here, there's no flash floods, we don't get hurricanes here, but we get tornadoes
Are you in
here.
Ohio too?
I mean, listen, it's the heart of it all, okay?
I'm just saying, it just to me that's life though too. It just that
But
is what is to be expected with flesh.
but pay attention, like, the fact that natural disasters exist when they don't have to exist is the problem.
I guess I'm saying I think they do have to exist
Why?
because again, we have weather patterns
So
that
what?
will cause a hurricane because the earth spins. The earth has to spin or we're going to die. And
Yeah,
we have to have rain or we're going to die.
but
The
that's because it was created that
volcanoes,
way in your worldview. Could God create it a different way?
Say that again.
Could God have created it a different way?
I don't know. I really don't. Again, I'm not God. I don't know.
Well, that's the
It
thing.
the way
If
I look at the
hold
earth
on, hold on. Don't
is
don't get carried away. We're almost to a point here, okay? If God couldn't have done it any other way, then he's just not all powerful. You have to abandon the idea of an all powerful God at that point.
but I disagree on that point because it says in the Bible that he did create the world perfectly. And like I said, I don't believe any of the natural disasters existed at that point. I believe when man fell, the earth was cursed and that we are living in
Okay.
that curse still.
And the curse was a result of who? Who gave the curse?
God,
Okay.
as a parent,
Did
that
God
was the punishment.
hold on. Did God have to curse the planet so it would have natural disasters, or did he choose to do it?
I think it's a result of our actions. Again, like
Try again.
I said,
Hold
I
on.
didn't
You're
think
getting hold on.
when he first
Hold on.
cursed.
You're getting carried away. You didn't answer the question yet. I said, did God have to set those specific consequences, or could he have used any other consequences? It's just a yes or no. Did he have to use
I
those
don't
specific consequences?
Again, I don't think that those were specific consequences. I think they were consequences of everything else that happened. Like I said, I
Does
didn't believe rain happened until the flood came.
does God have
Thus,
control over
that
the
was another
consequences?
curse. Say that again.
Does God have control over the consequences he sets?
Yes.
Okay, if God has control over the consequences that he sets, that means
Hmm.
he doesn't have to set those consequences. He could set other consequences.
Right. I agree.
Okay.
I
So
100% agree with what you're
so
saying.
what that
I'm
means is
just
that
saying that
hold on.
if, but we're making that determination as humans who live maybe 100 years if we're lucky.
It's just a logical deduction, okay? So if God didn't have to set consequences that included the natural disasters, that means the natural disasters are unnecessary. It's just a decision that he made. You follow?
I get what you're saying, but I think, like I said, in my mind, I just think it's just the way. I think we're trying to take away what humans possibly have contributed to it and
Mm-mm.
saying it was all God. And I
Nope.
don't believe that. Like
Nope.
erosion would not be as severe today
That's
if we weren't
that's
pulling
not what I'm
trees up
talking
and
about.
building
That's not
houses.
what I'm talking about. I didn't say anything about that.
I'm saying I believe a lot of the natural disasters are also a consequence of
No,
our
no
actions and the
one's
way we
asking
are
that.
with our earth.
No one's asking if we're making them worse. That's not a question that we're asking right now. We don't need an answer for that. The only question we're asking right now is who caused the natural disasters. And as far as I can tell, it's a consequence that God set. Like if my son went to school and punched another little boy in the nose, I could bring
Mhm.
him home. I could discipline him in any way I want to. I could choose to ground him to his room. I could put him in the corner. I could have him go over to the boy's house and apologize to the boy and the family, or I could just punch him in the nose myself, right? Just
Right.
okay. So if I choose to punch my son in the nose because he punched another kid in the nose, that's not a good consequence, is it?
Uh, Not the first time, probably not, but after
But
a few times, I
but
would not blame you for doing that because
but
he didn't learn his lesson the first 5
he's
times.
6. Do you think 6-year-olds should be punched in the nose?
If he continues to punch kids in the nose, I mean, do what you gotta do to get him to stop.
Do you think 6-year-olds should be punched in the nose by grown adults? Keep in mind there's only
Maybe not
one
a
right
punch.
answer.
Again, I already answered it. If he is continuing to do it over and over, yeah, I'd lay it on him
Okay. Well,
because I'm not gonna have my child
sorry.
go around punching people and
I
not learning, hey,
assumed
this is what it feels like to be
I
punched.
assumed your
Or
humanity
maybe you don't punch
threshold
him,
was
but at
better,
least
so
let the kid punch him.
I never had to do this for anybody. You're the first person I ever had to do this to. Now I have to change my analogy because I thought too highly of you. I need to lower the bar. So if the punishment for my child for punching another child, if I make the punishment, I don't know, lighting you on fire, is that a fair punishment?
For punching a kid in the face?
Yeah.
I mean, I would not like to be set on fire, obviously, but
But he
it's your
punched a
child.
kid. But he punched a kid. I have to light him on fire. Why can't I do it?
Is she for real right now?
Do you see the problem? Like you're saying, mankind sinned. God had to create natural disasters, but He doesn't. God doesn't have to do it. It's just a decision that He made. If
But how
God,
do you know he doesn't have to? You don't know
because
his
He
reasoning is, I guess,
is
what I'm saying.
all powerful. All powerful beings don't have to do anything. That's baked into the definition of all powerful. All right.
I guess what I'm saying is if you told your child, if you punch another kid in the face, I'm going to set you on fire, and then he punches a kid in the face and you set him on fire, are you being just?
No,
If
and I
that's what you
and
if
that
that's
at
what you
that point,
prior if
E
that's what you told him his
Eliana,
consequence would be.
I think at this point this is the end of the road for us.
I mean, it's just
I
it's
can't
you
talk to
why can't
somebody
you answer that?
that's advocating for lighting children on fire,
I'm not. I'm
but
saying if you told him ahead of time,
I guess I'm not surprised since it's baked into your religion. Lighting people on fire is literally baked into your religion, but I can't tolerate this anymore. That's something that we don't do around here. We don't advocate for child abuse, so we'll leave that up to the Catholic priest.